Well, ideas about how to fund social care will form part of the big conversation that was launched today by Baroness Casey, that public consultation about what has been a pretty intractable problem. We can talk now to someone who's been thinking about it for some time. Charlotte Pickles, Chief Executive of Restate, is a think tank whose stated mission is to come up with bold ideas to remake the state. Good evening, Charlotte.
Good evening.
And you do have a plan, don't you?
We do, yes. And I think it's brilliant to hear a Prime Minister not kicking social care into the long grass, but actually bringing forward the Casey Commission. But you're absolutely right. The elephant in the room is how you fund it. And we've heard so much rhetoric, so much talk, so many speeches about needing to do something. But ultimately, it's going to take an awful lot of money. And what we're hearing is that might be a increase in general taxation. So what could that look like? It could be an increase in national insurance. We obviously saw Boris Johnson try that. Or it could be an increase in income tax. The problem with that is that general taxation tends to get diverted. So it's not guaranteed to go to social care. A new government comes in, they decide they've got a different priority, and suddenly social care is in crisis again. So what we're saying is actually we need to create, yes, people are going to have to pay more. We're calling it a small levy, essentially, on your earnings. We're saying about 1.8%. But that money should go into a later life care fund, so a specific fund. It's privately managed. The Treasury can't decide to dip into it to pay for something else. And actually then when you get to the point of needing social care, you can draw down from that pot.
And you're suggesting not starting to pay into it until your mid-30s, so you don't have the sense that, it's young people funding, older people's care somewhere in the distance.
Exactly. So, I mean, some people might still think they're quite young at 34, but yes, exactly.
Yes, I've shown my age.
No, I mean, and I share it. But yes, exactly. So, and this is quite. This is actually in place in other countries as well. So, for example, Japan and Germany both have models like this. And in Japan, you start paying at 40. In Germany, it's younger. But what we're essentially saying is, exactly, you get to the age of 34 and hopefully at that point, you're in work, you kind of know what you're doing. And at that point you start paying, and then you pay each year until the point at which you get to pensionable age. But you're absolutely right. The key here, and the real problem with today's model is that, everyone today paying tax is actually paying for the current demand. It's paying for people who are currently using social care. And of course, we know actually that younger generations today are on the whole poorer than the older generation. So older generations are actually much wealthier. And that's really unfair. And what we don't want, therefore, is younger generations to have to continue doing that. And we know that there are fewer people of working age paying for more and more wealthier older people.
And what about the language? I note you're calling yours a levy. And that's what Boris Johnson talked about as well, wasn't it? And obviously he was doing it during the pandemic, which gave him the kind of, he could say, look, we're doing this all at once, but a levy rather than a tax, because, already the accusations that anything that looks like a tax will be called a death tax, a dementia tax, all those sort of political labels that get put on attempts to try and deal with this.
So you may say, well, you would say that, Charlotte, wouldn't you? But I think ours is actually a levy. It's not a tax. Now, don't get me wrong, it will feel like it. If you're paying it, you're still seeing that 1.8% going out of your paycheck. But the reason it's not a tax is it's not going to the Treasury. It's not something that a minister, a prime minister can just decide how they're going to allocate. It's not going into that general pool of tax revenue. And that's why it's different from being a straight tax. It is a levy because it's going into a fund. That fund is privately managed. It's getting interest, it's getting returns, and it's there for you. If you've paid into it, you can draw down on it. And that's different to what Boris Johnson tried to do, which really was a tax.
Right. And this is all being fed into the Casey Commission. Is it your idea?
It is. And I think it's great that, Baroness Casey, we know, is the kind of problem solver of Whitehall, isn't she? She's always called in with these really wicked problems to try and come up with the answer. And I think they're genuinely trying to be radical, and I've no doubt that whatever Baroness Casey comes up with, she will feel it's generally the right response. It's the right solution rather than the most politically palatable or the kind of easiest thing to do. So, yes, we're talking to the Casey Commission just like others are, and we really hope this is a serious consideration.
Charlotte, many thanks. Charlotte Pickles, Chief Executive of Restate there, with one proposal of how to pay for reforms to adult to social care in England.